Welcome to Inside the Franchise Growth Engine, presented by Hex Growth, a firm focused on building predictable pipelines, scalable growth systems, and enterprise value for emerging franchise brands. These are real stories from real franchise brands, but we go deeper. Inside the Franchise Growth Engine, leaders unpack systems, capital decisions, and operational discipline that turn growth into enterprise value. On today's podcast is a leading franchise partner, Melanie Bell, for the Baked Bear, a dessert concept that took something simple, cookies and ice cream, and turned it into a fast-growing, highly experiential franchise brand. What makes this story most interesting is that they didn't reinvent dessert, they reimagined how it's experienced, combining customization, product quality, and community-driven growth. Melanie, thanks for joining our podcast today. We're really excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. So I guess to get started, can you just give us a brief overview of your background and how you joined the Baked Bear?
I am actually coming from the mortgage world. Back in 2006, I decided to leave that industry and join the franchise world. And in 2020, during COVID, actually just before COVID, my husband and I went out to San Diego. Specifically, we went up to San Francisco, and we actually ended up going into a Baked Bear location. We didn't know about the franchise before we went into the space. We were actually out on a food tour, and we actually ended up going into a Baked Bear location in San Francisco. Took a picture, and it's interesting because people talk about manifestation. That was not a lottery word back then, but I took a picture, and then in 2020, during the height of COVID, we started to think about expansion when everyone else was actually thinking about what was going to happen in the future. So we took a picture, and by August of 2020, we were developing our first store in Miami. Now that was a journey because we obviously weren't trying to head to Miami. We actually wanted to stay local, which is the Northern Virginia area. But unfortunately, the territory had already been taken. So we decided to go big, and we went to Miami. It took us 3 years, so it wasn't, a straight, situation. We actually went through a lot. Obviously, with COVID, there were a lot of challenges overcoming, trying to get even just the slightest things, getting a space, because people were unsure of what was going to happen because they didn't know. And specifically with small businesses who are experiencing, the grunt of COVID and its aftermath, if you will, or, the shutdown really impacted how businesses were, looked at as far as were they viable, were they sustainable, what would happen with another global, pandemic if there were to be one. That you had to really rethink small business. But, we were determined to open this operation. So in May of 2023, we finally got open after 3 years, 1 year of permitting, 1 year of building it out. And then obviously, coming down that final stretch. So we finally opened in May of 2023 in South Beach, Miami. Now, I come back to the Northern Virginia area, and less than 6 months later, I'm getting a call from the franchisor who says, "Hey, Melanie, we really admire your perseverance and your, determination. We have an opportunity for you. There's an existing store in the Northern Virginia area, specifically North Bethesda in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And they want me to take over this location mainly because during COVID, this particular store, while it was doing well, it suffered greatly because of the COVID. So they had to pivot, where there was no in-store experience, and they were using the window, which was great, but I call that the food truck experience, where you kind of walk up and you order something and then your food arrives at the other end. That's not very much like the brand concept or the experience. So by December of 2023, we had renovated and reopened and revitalized what is now the Baked Bear Pike and Rose, which we're super happy about. And it's been quite a journey. But that's not my only location. We do have another location, and simultaneously, I'm developing a third store back in Miami in the Wynwood section. So I end up going back in 2024 and ultimately opened that store 9 months later, September 2025. So I'm happy to say I'm done with developing another store. Right now, we're going to put a little pause on expansion and really work, the stores that we have and hopefully see all of them wildly successful. And, you're really excited about it. It's a great concept.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like cookies and ice cream, right? I mean, let's face it. I
Right.
know I do. So yeah. To that, the concept is incredibly simple, right? It's cookies and ice cream, and why do you
Yeah.
think it's resonated so strongly with customers? Because it's simple. I mean, obviously, probably good ingredients, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
been curious about that.
I learned a long time ago, the saying, kiss, keep it simple, stupid, right? So everyone's really trying to reinvent a wheel. And really, it's all about the simple things. A lot of the newer concepts are really things that we go, wait, why didn't I think of that? It's just that simple. It's nothing, that we couldn't come up with, but it's just really how they do it. And what I really think is happening, especially now, is that, people are more about experiences than they are about just, grabbing the new thing. They want to have that experience. And one of the things that I really and resonated with me was the fact that it was such an experience, like in a simple way. Like, oh my gosh, you get to choose your cookies? What? You mean I can choose my ice cream? What? What do you mean I can put toppings on it? What? I mean, and then the final step, which is our kind of our signature, we say it's optional, but I say it's optional mandatory, which is that you warm that sandwich up. It just warms the cookie on the outside without melting your ice cream. Super fun, right? So yeah, so they've taken something very simple. Obviously, ice cream sandwiches have been around. It's not anything new. It's the modernization of it, how they took it from something so simple and created something that's very today, very, people want that experience. They want to know they can customize. And that resonates with a lot of guests because now they're just not given something that they have to kind of pick apart. They actually put it together. So there's that. And then, of course, everyone wants to know, so what's the best combination? I mean, really, there's so many combinations, right? So, we get asked a lot of questions about what's the best combination. Okay, so if you have do the math here, guys. 12 cookies and 12 ice creams. How many combinations are we talking possibilities and toppings, right? So I cannot give you the one thing. So it's a lot of fun. If you ever see it in action and the response from the people, that's what really drives you because you have something special and you know that it really is something that people, are going to remember because not only do they come in, they want to share that with someone else too. So when an anniversary, a birthday, or just a gathering happens, we're obviously really busy. But obviously with ice cream, the spring and summer is all about, the volume. So people are coming out. They're tired of being hunkered down for the winter. They want to get out and they want to have fun and be out and enjoy the elements. Well, in our area, Don, that can be a little challenging. But they want to definitely come out and have that experience and hang with their friends and gather. So it's super fun. It's a lot of fun actually.
That's great. I mean, you guys definitely had a lot of strong demand from day one. And I know people say once you get that first location open, it's almost like a rinse and repeat after that. Do you feel that was the case? And especially now opening another
Right.
in the Miami area, do you feel like it is more of a rinse and repeat, or is it just as challenging, getting another open?
Honestly, I can honestly say after this is not my first franchise experience with owning multiple units. I will say that your market changes significantly based on where you are. So, for example, Miami is a very um, it's a market that has a lot of concepts, right? There's nothing that's you know you don't find just an ice cream store. It always has to have a little bit more to it in order for people to want to come. So when you get to Miami, you're going to see a lot of different concepts. So there's so much going on. It's a tourist kind of area, so people are looking for things that are unique because they're on vacation, etc. So that's a really big distinction between the stores. As far as the North Bethesda, so what we love about this is very community. It's very we're the only dessert location within 5 miles, right? So that makes a difference. Yeah, so we're in a shopping center that's vibrant, has is known for its entertainment. What I do love is that they focus on the tenants as far as not having that cannibalism. When you're not going to have another ice cream location that's right next door to you or 2 block down the road, or so they've actually paid attention to what's happening in that community, and they've really been able to capitalize on that, really, because we like that. We want to be the only dessert game in town, right? Now it's one thing to be the only dessert concept, but you also still have to bring that level of quality, that service, all of those things. That's what keeps people coming back. So yeah, so we were able to really shine in an area like Pike and Rose or the North Bethesda community, which is more lifestyle. So you're going to see businesses there. You're going to see people that live there. You're going to see a lot of young people that are college students, high school students, a lot of young families. So yeah, it's a really good location that hits all the marks if you're looking to develop a concept like ours. Yeah. So now for Miami, that's one you got to tap into. We're kind of like a little fish in a very big pond. So we're trying to, find our way, and, so that we are more recognizable and, kind of have that brand awareness that is not as strong as it is in this area. So, but that's the challenge that we set out for. And so, but yes, they are very different. I can honestly say all three locations perform significantly different from each other. Although we would love to have all three highly performing stores, the reality is there's always one that's going to give you a run for your money no matter what you do. It's always one.
Is that Miami for you guys then?
Yeah, because it's really brand new. It's simply because of the newness of the concept. We're bringing a West Coast developed concept to the East Coast in the south of Florida with many many ice cream options, many dessert concepts. And even if they're not fantastic, they're there, right? They've been there longer. So now we've got to kind of, always be top of mind. We've got to market significantly more to really get that share of that same space. So it's really a challenge. I'm never going to tell someone it's easy, because it's not, because you're having to literally go to the beginning, the grassroots of it all, literally going out and talking to people and showing up at events and really sharing. And the marketing strategy is very different. Obviously, there's a lot of free product going out, but the idea is that you're going to get a return on that, but it doesn't always yield a return. Sometimes it's just marketing, right? So over time, and we've learned this. So at this point, Miami Beach store is 3 years young. So we are seeing our efforts have, if you check us out on Google, you'll see how people are responding. And to be honest, we get way more comments on our customer service, which is a really big deal. It's interesting how that turns out, because in that market space, there are a lot of people that just assume that, oh, everyone's going to do it. But again, it comes down to that experience. Why choose you over another ice cream? You know, so they're coming out because not only are they getting a great product, but they know that their service is exceptional and they want to talk about it. So we do, really like to, focus on that part. We are seeing year over year growth, sometimes 20%, 30%. I would love for it to be 100%, but, the reality is it takes time. And for the newest store, that's really, again, that's our, I don't want to say our problem child, but that's the one that needs a lot of love, right now, as far as getting more, building that awareness in the community that we're in, because we're surrounded by concepts. So, we really just have to really show how we stand out or how we're different. And there are some things that are helping along the way. One thing about the South Florida market is that there are a lot of events, venues, because of the warm weather. So you're able to get in front of a lot of people quickly. So, for example, the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, the such and Ultra Festival, the festival. There's so many festivals. It's not like that here in the North. We have to wait until the spring or the summer to come out, right? So, partnering with larger venues that really love us, we've been able to get in front of. It's called the Kaseya Center, which is an arena inside of the Miami. It's a sports arena. So, and it's also I don't go to concert, like a concert arena. So they have a lot of people that are gracing that venue. So you want to be a part of that. You want to get in front of as many people as possible. And sometimes they just, it just takes that one person who recognizes it and then wants to work with you. We are invited to different concerts that are happening throughout the year. So yeah, it's work, a lot of it. So, but we're excited, we're up for the challenge.
Are you guys like working with wedding planners and supplying, maybe wedding venues with your desserts? Is that stuff that you guys do as well?
So, it's interesting. When you first start something, you want to go all in with any opportunity to, partner with wedding venue, things like that. Again, same space, right? So there are a lot of event planners in Miami and a lot of, of that same. We do more, I would say, with private events. Like it's easier for us just because, for example, if you've had the Bake Bear experience, you're having a birthday party and you go, oh, this would be great. So it ends up being more like that. So one to one. When we're partnering with caterers, they're working with another client. The client has specific need. Like there's so many layers to it that it becomes more of a challenge to try and even connect, because that person hasn't had the experience. They're being told by their planner about something and they have to kind of envision it. So for us, the best is to have the experience yourself and then, move forward in that space, because now you know what to expect and you're super excited. So we've been very successful in that way. But yeah, I mean, obviously, any opportunity to partner with anyone who is also connecting with that same, that same client or that same demographic, we want to be a part of that conversation. But again, and if you're thinking about a catered event, the main course is usually what people are focused on. The dessert kind of becomes a loose situation, right? So it's usually, yeah, we'll do it if the price is right. You know what I mean? But if I were offering the hot plates or, the comfort foods, that would be a very different, you understand that is something that's necessary. But yeah, we've done quite a few bar mitzvahs, weddings, client appreciations, festivals. Those are fun. it's just so hot in Miami or in Florida anyway. So it's just like when you think you're like, oh my goodness, we're going to be outdoors, but it's fun. The first couple of times you're excited. The next few, you're like, okay, what's the temperature going to be? How many people are we really, you start streamlining it really quickly.
Because the franchisors come to you and obviously ask you
Right.
to take over a location, you're obviously what we would consider an ideal franchisee. And I know you also do quite a few validation calls. So,
Yeah.
with your experience and doing these validation calls and talking to different people,
Yeah.
from your opinion, what is considered a ideal franchisee for this brand? Like, what does it take?
My husband thinks that I'm a profiler, a self-proclaimed profiler when it comes to these sort of things, right? So I've been doing this a long time. And, when someone calls, I immediately think, do they have the stamina for what it's going to take to go through this process completely? Do they have the financial fortitude to stay in when things aren't going quite as well as they thought it was going to be, right? So, everyone has who's even considering branching out and becoming an entrepreneur. The goal is to obviously make money, and and how much you're going, or time and money you want to put into it, is going to dictate how well, in some cases, it's going to do. Some franchises are not worth your time, and someone has developed a great product and concept, but they've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And now you want to, because of what you see, be a part of that. Now that's
Yeah.
the end result. But the middle part is where things go a little left, right? So they don't understand the financial responsibilities, and how much you actually need to have as far as liquid capital in order to go down the road, especially in the event that, say you picked what you think is a fantastic location, and the customers aren't coming in right away. What do? Now you have to increase your marketing budget was something different, so now you've got to increase there, but you're not getting the sales. Where is the money coming from? You Team members, your team partners, these are your biggest challenge, right? So you think it's a fantastic product, but they come in and they have a completely different idea of how this is all supposed to go. So now you're spending more money and, overhead, retraining, things like that. So I would say the first question they usually ask is obviously, how well is it doing? Because they want to be told how fantastic this is and how much money they're going to make. But then I start to kind of ask them questions about their background, just to see, if this is something, that they've experienced. Sometimes they say, oh, I have a friend who did this, or, if they've never experienced it before, they're in for a ride. So I, kind of give them the real deal kind of experience, what expectation. I'm not just going to show you the bottom line numbers. I'm going to tell you how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
And the road is not always so easy. It's not a straight line. There are a lot of bumps and curves and turns, and you have to be willing to, make those adjustments or pivot. You have to be passionate about it, because at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh my goodness, I forgot to do this, that can tear you down. That weighs on your body. How much are you willing to put into it yourself to help develop it? Some franchise perspectives, they have fantastic jobs. They're just looking for an opportunity to reinvest in something that's going to continue to grow their, investment portfolio. Sometimes it's just not for them. A lot of franchises are hands-on, owner operator. You have to, I always say this, it's like birthing a baby. Do you give your baby to someone as soon as you birth it, or do you nurture it so it can stand on its own and walk and run, and then you let go? But until then, very hands-on. I don't care what franchisors say about how easy it is. That's the sales pitch. But the reality is that you have to be involved. You have to know what's going on. You are going to have more work on your plate. So I love the enthusiasm. I love talking to people, but I also want them to do a reality check. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've helped the franchisor or hurt them because I don't know the person that I'm talking to and what they're receiving when I say it. But I say it with the best intention of just, being aware. You have to make an informed decision. It's not always about the money. It's about the effort that you're going to put into making it to get to that goal. So, yeah. I
Right.
think sometimes, and I say this even to my sons, I said, I think we make it look easy for you guys. I think you think it's just that simple. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but love what you do. And then when I'm talking to them, I do kind of get a feel for what their background is outside of the financial aspect, just to see if they're able to, in my opinion, based on what I know about the franchise, be able to inject themselves and fully go the distance to bring about the results that they're looking for. And some will and some won't.
I think honesty is always the best policy there, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I'm talking to new franchisees in my concept, honesty is always the best policy, and it's a trade-off too,
True.
right? Because sometimes you have people that are like, I can't handle the politics of corporate America anymore. I can't work 90 hours a week, work for a micromanager boss. Well, it's a trade-off. Like, is that any different, better, worse? I'm not trying to judge that. Is it any different than
Right.
starting your own business? Because maybe you don't have the micromanaging boss, but you, like, to your point, you have a lot of other things you have to take into consideration and is growing your
Right.
business. So I think there's a reason that they keep choosing you to validate, because I think you're telling the truth, and I think that resonates with people, honestly. This show is about systems, decisions, and infrastructure that power scalable growth. What's the one system or habit that you feel has had the biggest impact on your ability to scale the Baked Bear across 3 locations?
Wow, that's a great question. So one of the things that for our concept, and obviously, being aware of what is the current trend, what is happening now for marketing as far as our concept, right? One thing I will say, this particular brand, which they have started, well, they started with social media marketing, and that has been their claim to fame, if you will. They started with social media. They had their finger on the pulse of social media before. I'm not a TikToker or a Instagrammer or whatever the terms are. I don't want to say my age anymore, but I'm just going to say I'm direct marketing, but these guys are social media marketing. So very different. That said, with our concept, they're very Instagrammable. So, it's all about the pictures and that short, reel, if you will, to grab their interest. Even if there are no words, the product speaks for itself. In this day and age, you have to always partner with someone who's constantly getting your message out or your product out there. We use a lot of influencers. These people have followers beyond followers. And so what I've noticed, just even taking over this location in North Bethesda, where I wasn't as heavy on the social media marketing, we are now, and I promise you, these lines are beyond out the door, around the corner, just because one person decided that, it was a great dessert spot. So everyone wants to try it. From the moment, though, we opened the doors, post-COVID, we saw a 30% increase in sales from the previous ownership. We are now up 60% over those sales. So we are really rocking it, if you will, with our ability, and it's that constant awareness. It's constant, and you have to deliver on the service. You cannot have a great product without good service. You just can't do it. So we also highlight that in the social media aspect, Google, Yelp. We want people to come in and talk about their experience. And so when they're sharing, other people want to come and see what this is all about. I mean, obviously, it's a blessing and a curse, because if you're going to say this is who you are, then you have to deliver on that every single time. We're under a microscope now. Everyone is looking, why am I going to spend, X amount of dollars on your product when I can go somewhere else? Well, because not only are you going to get the quality, you're going to get that service, and it's starting to show, and we're seeing it through our sales increasing year over year, month over month. So I'm doing a lot of hiring for our teams, just to make sure. I have a saying, show us your E. This is our way of asking them to show us their energy, their enthusiasm, their excitement, and all of these positive things, because they're going to need a mental break when it comes to the volume that they're about to. They're going to need energy. They're going to need to be enthusiastic. They're going to need to be excited, because that's how you get through this. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, I would say for our concept, specifically social media marketing, hiring influencers, as they're called, and then just also partnering with local community. I guess they're influences in their own right. We have a lot of mommy groups, as we call them. They come in and they have, their own social media pages, geared for just moms who, want to find a place to take, their babies or, their loved ones. We have daddy groups, same thing, our product is for everyone. And we're still really surprised at the amount of people that are new, that are walking through that door. By now, we would think that pretty much everyone has experienced the Big Bear in some capacity in this area, but that's actually not true. So we're seeing, and we are asking, how did you hear about us? My friend, comes here, they told me about it, or I saw you on TikTok. So we know what's working. So right now I can honestly say those have been working for us. And we're going to continue to move in that direction. And just on a side note, obviously we do community events. We had a customer appreciation event that I don't know if it went viral, but it felt like it did, because there were so many people, thousands that came out that day.
Wow.
So yeah, super crazy. But yeah, so we're just, it's been working for us. So we're going to continue that. With regards to the Miami market, similar, but again, small fish, big pond. But we are starting to see, the increase in our sales percentage. Month over month, year over year. Sometimes it's the same. You can't change that. But when we see that spike, where we are tracking to see, what created this, right? So again, spending, because Miami, or even just Florida in general, is more tourist area. So, tourism plays a lot into how often you're going to see people coming in. If tourism's down, our sales are going to be down, so what's happening in the world is, definitely affects that for tourism. And I would say locally too. I mean, we're in the DC area, so we know where we are. We're not strangers to our surroundings, but it's been helpful to be one of a few dessert concepts, and that really has helped us here in this area. Miami area, we're going to have to put a lot more time and effort into, continuing to build our brand awareness there.
That's awesome. I like the show us your E.
Yep. Sure, sure. I can't take credit for that. My husband said that. And so we now say, bring your E game, things like that, play off of little things,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And so
like
it
that. I
makes
like.
me, yeah, thank you.
No, we appreciate it, Melanie. This has been great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share, about yourself, how people can find you and your locations online?
You can visit us at our store. I would love to come and, if anyone sees it and says, "Hey, I saw you on the podcast. This is fun and a unique experience for me." You can find me nowadays in the North Bethesda store as we're gearing up for our very busy spring and summer season. We are super excited to always welcome new guests. I'm always happy to, chat with anyone who's interested in, building a brand or some of the challenges that, I faced, or if I can answer any questions that may be helpful in order to help, obviously assist them with making that final determination. I always say, know thyself. I'm going to give it to you, like honestly, as you said. But, I also want people to be aware that, there is a certain gratification that comes from overcoming those challenges, when you're pushing yourself and you see, wow, I really can do this. You might be a little hesitant at first, but, when you see the results, and as we used to, the hard work that you've put in, you can see where and how it's impacting and finally get the results that you are looking for. It's honestly greater than the bottom line, because you know that you have something good. You want to get up every day. You want to, talk to people and share. And it will come. It will absolutely come. We have super, fantastic customers that are coming in all the time, and they're sharing their stories. And yes, we are dessert, but we are worth every calorie. That's all I'm going to say.
Awesome. And if they're in Miami, where can they find you guys?
So we're located in South Beach, right in the heart of South Beach on Washington Avenue. And we're also located in a fun area called Wynwood. It's an art and entertainment area. So Wynwood has a very good nightlife. So I'm also throwing out a little bit of that to let people know you don't have to just go to South Beach. You can also go to Wynwood. Miami's a very fun city. And, we'd love to see you guys come out and, obviously chat it up and tell us how we're doing, and, take photos and, show us on Instagram that you came to any of our locations, and we would love to see that grow and, and that enjoyment, excitement, and get our brand out there to everyone.
Thanks so much, Melanie. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys. It was a pleasure.